Ich denke, ihr kriegt das hin.
You need a clicker?
No.
No? All right. Just a second. Start keynotes.
Okay, thank you. And good evening, and thank you to stay until now. I work for this magazine. It's called IL, and it's a monthly magazine, a supplement of an Italian newspaper called Il Sole 24 Ore, which is a financial and economical newspaper. Maybe it's the leading one in Italy. I've been working in this magazine as art director since 2008. And in the latest year, I concentrated mostly on working on the magazine and also working on this book. This is one of the cover I like mostly from the magazine because this is a quote coming from Mark Twain. The reports of my death are gritty, exaggerated. And with this cover, we allude at the survival of print and of printing magazine. In fact, I believe that there are two interesting points. The first one is that magazines are not dead. In fact, now magazines are concentrated mostly on some niche. They are becoming a quality product. They are working with a lot of quality content, quality photograph, quality illustration. And we are seeing nowadays that there is a strong literature about every passion, human passion, like bikes. So there are a lot of magazines about football as well, or about food. And also there is a sort of new erotic, new way of erotic magazine. So we are seeing that also small realities, they are doing their magazine, they're producing their magazine, young guys, they are working very well, producing a different magazine. And also the retail model is changing. This is a newsstand recently opened in London, is the Kiosk Cafe from Monocle, where people can go there, can order a cappuccino, but at the same time they can order a newspaper from a menu, and that kind of newspaper is printed in that moment, and you can read that kind of newspaper. But there are many realities like this one. For example, the Guardian a few years ago opened in London, in Shoreditch, the Guardian Coffee, where you can go, you can consume drinks, but you can consume news as well. And recently, Meg Culture, Jeremy Leslie opened this shop in London that is completely dedicated to magazine and books about magazine. So thanks also to internet, I think the world, the magazine world is having a sort of rebirth, so it's changing a lot. And also, I think, thanks to the role of the design and the role of the designer inside the newsroom. A few years ago, I wrote this book, and where I wanted to underline the importance of the designer, and I wanted to do that also enlightening a few case studies, so a few realities where the designer, where they work very well inside the editorial room. Like, for example, Eureka from the Times, Bloomberg Business Week, Snowfall, the project of the New York Times, The Guardian, and other projects. So the core of this book was that the designer works like a planner with an aesthetic sense, works like an organizer, not just like a drawing board stylist. So the importance that the design is not just related to the aesthetic aspect of a product, but is the design and the content are the core of a product. And it's the idea that we try to bring in the Sole 24 Ore newsroom when we started this project. This was the first cover of the magazine. And when we started to design this magazine, we look at the magazine from the past. Italian magazine like L'Europeo, L'Espresso, Il Tempo, so magazine coming from the 60s and 70s, but also North European magazine like the supplement of the Sunday Times, or for example like Town and the Twen, that I think they were the greatest example of editorial design in that particular period. So we try to underline the key elements of that editorial design. For example, the use of bold typography. For the first graphic project of Hill, we try to use the accident grotesque, for example, and we combine it with a more contemporary typeface for that period that was the Pubblico, designed by Paul Barnes and Christian Schwarz. So these are some of the layouts of the first graphic project of the magazine. So they're coming from 2008 and 2009. So you can see how they are close to the first references that I show you. So the use of images, the use of type, the use of black and white. So sometimes we try to reproduce a newspaper coming from that period. But what we tried to do was to rethink a bit to the Italian editorial panorama in two ways. First of all, about the workflow. So how a designer can interact with journalists inside the newsroom. And the second one, most important, about languages. So we try to introduce new visual solution to tell story, to tell news. What about the workflow? I think we were lucky because we created the newsroom from zero, so it was a new project. In the newsroom, we were only young people, and both the editor-in-chief, Walter Mariotti first, and Christian Rocca now, they accepted the idea that the workflow is not a vertical one, but with them was able to work in a more horizontal way, so we call it a sort of a functional hierarchy where everybody can participate, where everybody can add his or her expertise to the project. And most important was the relationship, the professional relationship between the journalistic part and the graphic design part of the newsroom. And second one also, that we are able to develop a sort of, like a sort of bottega rinascimentale, so work Renaissance and workshop inside the newsroom, where we try to, where we create everything inside. So we have illustrator, we have information designer, young students that are coming from the university, so they're doing a sort of internship inside our newsroom. So we create this sort of laboratory inside a huge newsroom. In this way, we were able to introduce a sort of new visual languages, like I told you before, combining different elements. So starting from data, working with numbers, mixing with maps, photography, illustration, and so we started to publish pages like this one. This was published in 2008. And was an attempt to translate a story into a visual, a non-linear form. The story was about the introduction of the high-speed railways in Italy, so the Frecciarossa, connecting Milan and Rome. And so we try to analyze the world situation, mapping the countries using the high-speed railways tracks, the one in construction, the one in operation, the one in projects. And it was a sort of column that we repeated every month inside the magazine. This was about how much people spent in clothes and electronic devices in the world, or this was more like a game about the tallest ferry wheels in the world, or this was a beer world infographic status report about consumption restriction, where we can drink beer in which places, at the office, at the park, during the concert, and where not. And these are other examples. This was about organic agriculture in the world, or this was about the fisheries and aquaculture, or about the global retail theft, so the products that are more at risk in the store. This was, sometimes we do pages also related to foreign affairs or politics. This was a sort of status report about Iran, or about military spending and armaments. And sometimes we use more illustration, like in this case. This was a page about honeybees extinction and European proposals to stimulate beekeeping, to develop beekeeping throughout Europe. And, but also in this case, thanks to the illustration, we are telling the information as well. For example, we are telling the process, the pollination process, like in this case, or which are the plants that requires bees pollination. But most important, I think, is the idea, the journalistic idea that is behind every page. For example, this was a page about the presidential election in Egypt. And in this case, we try to introduce a sort of beardometer. So we try to locate all the candidates in a sort of spectrum and show how much they were integralists or not, depending by the length of their bird. Showing the coalition, which one they were close to the right wing or to the left wing. And sometimes our pages are published in our magazine or our newspaper. This is a particular case. It's Haaretz, an Israeli newspaper. And so it was a sort of column we repeated. Sometimes we developed this page during a workshop, like in this case it was in Berlin. And in this case we realized this page that was about the military presence, the US military presence in North Africa to limit the terrorist attacks. So you can see the planes or the drones that the US troops are using in that area, the zone of interest, the different terrorist groups, the leader of each groups. So in this case, we try to visualize the article, so the written piece and the story. So we move from more abstract pages, like the one about the trains, the high-speed railways, or pages where we use more illustration, like the honeybees example. I think that the best way is to balance these two aspects, so the information aspect and the aesthetic aspects. But most important is that in this way we are telling a story. So starting from data and from a good journalistic idea, filtering and visualizing data, we are adding a sort of value to our readership. And this is a good mix between design and journalism. And also the designer has a point of view, so has a sort of responsibility, because he's making an editorial choice, publishing or deciding how to design that page. So it was a sort of process in terms of style, in terms of different visual solution, but was also a process in terms of workflow, so the people that work in this kind of pages. And we soon realized that the perfect team was composed by 3 people, so an information designer, a journalist, and an illustrator. And this was more or less the process, where the most important part is the research, and most important, how all this information are organized and are displayed on the page. Starting from that kind of pages, we try to introduce this sort of, like I call it a sort of infographic thinking along the whole publication. So in that case, the number of the page became data became a story as well, or developing the different cover stories. We try to add section or modules using infographic, like this case, or like this was about raw materials in the world. Or this was a cover story about Japan, and we try to create these sort of emblems to represent the content of every single written piece of the cover story. Here are a few details. Or this was a cover story about demographic decline, financial bubbles, and social depression. So also in this case, we worked with different layers of reading. So the one layer are the photos, another one are the small illustration and infographics, And the idea was to reinvent the magazine every time, to create a new section, new modules, using all these languages. This is a sort of section we did for dummies, so finance for dummies, how to pray for dummies, so explaining how to pray in the different religions, or the wedding day for dummies, the tourism on space, the gardening on balcony, or some tip and tricks about mountain biking. And issue by issue, for example, the infographics, we use infographic also in the cultural pages. These are about the big travelers from the past, so we try to isolate all the travels. This is St. Paul, for example, but was a sort of column we repeated different times. We see Nietzsche, or we see the Beatles. Infographic also in the fashion section of the magazine, showing different objects and showing also the manufacturing process or how to use all these kind of objects. The horoscope page, again designed like a constellation map. Or these are some section related to advertising, in this case about watches, and we try to do that using numbers and using our languages. This was the attempt to explain the meaning of a word in graphic. This is the meaning of risk, so we use paper in this case, or this is the word life. So we create with pluses in this sort of artwork. And we experiment also a bit. This was an attempt in the cultural section of the magazine. It was an attempt to translate a literary piece into a bidimensional map. This is a piece of Borges. So there is the real world, the narrative world, the different word inside the narrative world, and the connection between the characters and the objects in the story. And again, this was a sort of column. This is a theater play by Thornton Wilder, The Long Christmas Dinner. We map all the movements of the character on the stage, or again, The Little Prince, or Stand By Me by Stephen King. And after 3 years, we tried to reinvent a bit the magazine again. This was the first issue of that redesign, where we try to move from the lifestyle to more close to the content, more close to the news. So we left the references coming from the 60s and 70s, and we try to work more with the grid. We try to work more to stay more close to the content. This is the grid we are using. We are still using inside the magazine. Was designed by Karl Gessner for Capital magazine in 1962, and it's a particular grid because it's composed by a square divided into 58 units by 10 points each, and 58 is a number that can be divided into 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 columns, always keeping 2 units between the columns. So at the beginning it seems a bit complicated to use, but when you started drawing on this grid, you realize that it's very helpful. And it was to design the different section of the magazine. So mixing the different modules of the grid, mixing 2 new typefaces designed by Chris Sowersby, Tiempos, and the founders Grotesque, we create the different section that now I'm going to show you. We worked on the logo as well, together with Christian Schwartz, a typographer based in New York. These are few of the proposals that he sent to us, and at the end, we prefer this one, and this one was designed and based on the grid of the magazine as well. So I'd like to quickly show you the different sections, different parts of the magazine. The idea from the beginning was to create magazine inside the magazine. This was the first idea for the cover. So more or less always the same. We changed the photo and the color of the box. following or contrasting the photo. With the new redesign, we try to create a more flexible layout. So we try to work with infographic on the cover as well. This was a cover story about revolution, so the Arab Spring, Occupy Wall Street. I think it was in 2011. These are a few other proposals for that cover. This is another one. Also in this case, we try to apply this sort of infographic way of thinking. This was about, my editor-in-chief wanted a cover about, to tell the world is ungovernable. So after a long brainstorming, we created this cover where we geolocated all the reasons why we consider the world ungovernable. And these are some other cover. The front of the magazine, at the beginning, we had the two sections similar to a newspaper, so we wanted to create a newspaper inside the magazine. The pink is the pink background is because the main newspaper has a colored pink paper. And we had two sections, the global report and the green report related to lifestyle and ecological lifestyle. With the redesign, we created one section, merging the two previous one, creating a sort of double layer of reading. So the green report was contained into this green line along the pages. So create a sort of rhythm in this sort of rhythm in the first part of the magazine. And these are some of the pages from this part, so different inner cover, or always pages where we try to mix using maps, using small infographics, schemes, illustrations, or sometimes telling story just using images. This is the style we created for the maps or for the small illustration. And after a few issues, we decided to change the topic of this line for every number, and change the color as well. For example, the Arab line, the spy line related to the privacy topic, or Espana line. And in the central part of this section, always there was published a double spread pages, an infographic or illustrated double spread pages. This was, for example, a calendar about elections in the world, or about China line, about China, or about South America, the Caudillo line. The most important part of the magazine, I think, is the cover story. For that cover, we developed a long cover story, was about 35 pages, infographics pages like this one, about the other revolution or about all the revolution in 2011. This was another attempt. We create a map in the cover, and we mixing society, economy, and philosophy. And we try to organize all the written pieces of the cover story using this map. So the cover story was divided into three main sections, and every piece was related to a single part of this map. And these are other examples of cover story where we try to work with type, with illustration, with maps. This was about Italian, made in Italy and Italian design. Or this was about the state of our nation. So there was a first part of this cover story with all these photos from different parts of Italy, and a section in the middle, an infographic section showing the position of Italy in different ranking, different topics. Or this was another one where we proposed the government more engineer, more architects, more designer, the government in Italy. So we work with these design methods, we sketching by hand schemes on the different pages. And these are other example of cover story. This was illustrated by Maria Corte about cyber life, cyber sex, cyber theology and cyber war and cyber love. And here are some of the sketches done by Maria Corte. She's an illustrator based in Barcelona. And other cover story, this was about Elon Musk and the tourism on Mars. And again, 20 pages illustrated like this one with infographics, maps. This is a double spread about all the missions to Mars. This was another cover we did a few years ago. This was the original idea. So it was about Bill de Blasio. We tried to create a sort of fake cover of Time, showing the Italiano of the year. But even if we try to publish this small disclaimer, the lawyer of Sole 24 Ore, they stopped us, so we published the cover I showed you before. And inside we work a lot with maps, we work a lot with type, with schemes, like in these details. This is another example. This was about food. In this case, we spoke about the multinational food companies, so the companies that are producing flavors, and we try to explain the different recipes of these flavors. For example, showing that the flavor of cheese is produced isolating molecules coming from mushrooms, rose, peach, and other elements. And again, using infographics, this was an issue about big data and football. And in this case, we try to summarize the whole season of Carlos Tevez. Showing the position in the fields where he shot into the goal, or how many times he took the ball in the different areas of the field. And here we can see so our prime minister. So we try to imagine how our prime minister is working in Palazzo Chigi in Rome. Or this was about new feminism. We worked together with Jessica Ish to create these letterings for this cover story. And every issue we produce a sort of teaser that we launch in the social network to introduce the new magazine.
You look so good, fantastic man.
These are more recent covers. This is we create 4 different covers for this issue with different portraits designed by Andrea Ventura, who is an Italian illustrator based in Berlin. And in this case, we also realize a limited series printed on canvas of the series of the 4 covers. And again, inside we try to create infographics related to the topic. Again, with Rome, this is one of the recent issue we did about how cool is Rome. So we create this guide about all the hipster places where to go to drink or to eat in Rome. And again.
E spunta il sole sui terrazzi della Tiburtina e tutto si arroventa e tutto fuma per le strade di Roma.
Well, this is the latest issue that is on newsstand now about Putin. And again, we develop a section, an infographic section inside to explain Russian in different topics and different areas. The main part of the magazine, these are different sections we developed during these 8 years at the magazine. So we always try, like I said before, to combine different languages. So working with infographic, working with schemes, working with new modules. This is Fogliettone, is a part at the front of the magazine where we work a lot with Maria Corte and with the illustration. For example, this is a philosophical manual to understand how to create the perfect bullshit. So we try to translate it into a sort of infographic. This is about the collapse of the right-wing parties in Italy, about Pope Francis. So you can see how every piece of the illustration, every part of the illustration is related to a part of the written piece, so there is a strong connection. Or again, introducing different styles. For example, this was an attempt to work with comics. So there is 2 different stories in this piece. One is the one inside the comic, and the other one is the written piece. Or again, other style. This was an article written by Paul Berman about the concept of evil. So we create this monster that is destroying the column of text. This is a section about the construction of new buildings, roads, railways. So we work a lot with maps. Or this was about the reform of schools in Italy, or the reform of the labor market, or about Expo. This is about travels. This is a guide to explain to people what is an hipster. We did a few years ago. Or this is about the flat white economy. So we asked to a tattooer, an Italian tattooer, to illustrate the concept of hipster. Or this was the music report. We created a section inside to tell about music, and we realized this sort of newspaper about music. Or this is another special section we created for the fashion week in Milan. It's about design. Or this is about basket, working out with illustration. Working with Malika Favre, we realized this special sex issue. And again, using infographics, using images, so different modules inside this section. Working a lot with photos, like in this case, was a reportage from Fukushima, so we work only with images. This is one of the latest sections we introduced in the magazine about long stories, long-form reading. And even in the fashion section of the magazine, we try to set fashion in different industrial set. And again, we try to work with infographic, with schemes in this section. And recently, we create also a sort of studio inside the newsroom, and we are working for other brands, important brands, like this is work we are doing together with Eni, is an energy group in Italy, and is a section inside the magazine developed together in collaboration with this brand. And again, we are trying to add our value working with the infographics. And here are other section, the interviews, or this was a section related to lifestyle. This was the idea to create a sort of tabloid inside the magazine, so linked to the graphic style of British tabloid, but working with different pieces, so pieces about foreign affairs, or a double infographic page to explain how to become a Ayatollah in Iran, or about how Qatar is using its brand to develop its foreign policy. Or this was a special section of tabloid related to justice in Italy, or the summer issue of tabloid. This was related to a special section about tennis. And this is a new section called YOLO, related to TV series, movies, music, cinema, and again another graphic style, sort of another magazine inside the principal one. And also about design. This is a page at the end of this section related to graphic design. Another important part of the magazine is the back of the magazine. It's called Rane, which means frogs. And in this case, we started from the magazine and newspaper from the futurism. Also the masthead developed together with Christian Schwarz. It's very similar to the La Cerba Mustard, that was a newspaper from that period. And in this section, we work only with infographics, typography, illustration, and we introduced this version of the graphic, so the super condensed one, and we developed a sort of alphabets of frogs doing different things related to the written pieces. So small frogs related to the infographics, we place inside the main headlines, or we develop huge frogs in the pages, or this was a piece about languages. So we illustrate all these frogs coming from different nations and writing the sound of the frogs in the different languages. Or these are other pages, more scientific pages, or literary maps about David Foster Wallace. Or again, other example, playing with illustration, playing a lot with type. So the idea was to create a sort of poster. Each page of this section has to be a sort of poster. And this was a special section, special edition of Rane we developed together with Raymond Biesinger, a Canadian illustrator, where he tried to illustrate the story of the futurism. So the cult of the machine, the cult of the war, the cult of technology. So all the concepts that are typical are close to the futurism philosophy. And here are other attempts that we try to develop this section using a collage or using photos. This is a new section called Explicit at the back of the magazine. It's a new one. And 2 weeks ago, we also introduced the website of the magazine, and with this small video, I'd like to show you how the website works. So the idea was to create a strong relationship between the printed magazine and the website. Again, we are trying to introduce infographics on the website as well. So it's a sort of new challenge we are trying to develop inside the newsroom. And just to close, I like to explain which is the figure that now it's needed inside the newsroom. So it's a sort of new designer that can be called the editorial experience designer. That can be a professional, a figure that has to be able to develop digital product over a great content. So in one point, he has to view the digital technologies like an opportunity to develop a new form of business, but at the same time, he has to be able also to requalify paper. So to think in both ways, digital and print. And I'd like to say thank you for the attention.
Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. What a great finish for this day. We discussed at this corner there that we will have you next year for a full day. You can tell us and tell us and tell us and tell us. Okay? You come for a full day, yeah. Only Francesco Franchi.
Okay. Now we have 8 years of work to show. So
I have only one question.
Yeah.
You say in your CV, you are a journalist and you're a graphic designer, creative director. what part of your life is the one side and what is the other side?
No, but it's, for example, it's the same because when you're working in a newsroom, like a designer, you are, like I said before, you are trying to tell stories. So you are working in a strong relationship with journalists. You are learning a lot from them. At the same time, you are explaining them typography or colors, or, for example, my editor-in-chief now is becoming an expert of printing technologies. So it's a continual change of skills, of backgrounds, and I think it's a nice thing to work inside the
Could it be a
newsroom.
good idea for editorial designers to become journalists?
To become, yeah, but I think that once you're working, telling ideas, telling journalistic ideas, you are working with a sort of like a journalist. So
Okay.
you have this.
You have to change always your point of
Yeah, you have.
looking on things.
Yeah, you have this sort of responsibility because on one side there is the aesthetic, but you have to tell stories in a clear way.
Probably this is the explanation why you can make so much things in parallel times. Thank you so much.
Thanks.